here. This is a special call meeting and workshop that we'll be working on some different things this morning. Some will be action items and some will not be. I'm not sure how long the meeting will last. We'll see, and try to take care of the items that we're looking at on the agenda. If everybody doesn't have an agenda, I think there's some back on my secretary's desk. You're welcome to have one. That being said, welcome to everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. Ask that you stand for the opening prayer to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Shelby, will you lead us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we ask you to be with us during these trying times, and we try to take care of the county business and be fair to all. We ask that you watch over us as we make our daily journeys throughout this world. We ask this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Item 5 on the agenda is discuss, approve, disapprove the bank depository bid negotiating extending current contract that expires August 1st, 2015. Go out for new bids authored by Vi Malone. Vi.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
This contract with the Falls City National Bank expires August 1st of this year. And because it's 2 years ago, it was a new contract, according to the state statute, we can go out and just have them negotiate another 2 years, or we can go out for bid. So it's whatever the court wants to do. And also the state statute allows for more than one depository. We can have 2 depositories.
Negotiate, right?
Well, I just put it on the agenda as a courtesy. It's not the treasurer's duties, it's commissioner's court duty, but it's something I've always done just to let the court be aware that it's up for renewal. So whatever the court chooses, a decision just needs to be made on which way to go. And
Well, yeah, I think we negotiate again with the bank that we have now, the Falls City National Bank, for the next 2 years.
right, then in 2 years, then we'll have to go out for bid according to the statutes.
I'm just so everybody will know, I'm on the board of the Karnes County National Bank, and I greatly prefer that they not be the depository. It would keep me from voting in connection with anything that had to do with that contract in the bank. I've talked to the chairman of the board and Trip Rothman, and I mean, they're willing to do it as a favor to the county.
The sub-depository?
Yeah, but they are not actively seeking that, and I don't want them to get it because I don't want to be disqualified in connection with the bank's actions or the commissioner court actions. And it's not a money-making thing for any bank to be the depository bank. Anybody that does it is doing it for just as a local aid to the commissioner's court in this particular thing to a county. So that being said, well, we can move on to discuss this. Is there anything additional you want to say about it, Vi?
No, sir.
If it's negotiated, is it a 2-year negotiation?
Yes, it's a 2 years. Then in 2 years, we have to go out for bids because you can only extend the original contract one time.
And this is the extension that we're working under right now.
Yes, sir.
So then after the extension, we have to go back for bid.
Correct. And if there's no banks within the county that would bid on it, then we could go outside the county, in 2 years if that's what the court wants to do. but the statute says it needs to be a bank within the county. But if there's no banks that will bid, then we can go look outside the county.
The only two local banks we have is Karnes City and Falls City, and I'd rather stay with local banks. To me, Falls, with the Karnes County, with the judge on that board, we probably need to stay with Falls City for another 2 years.
And we've been keeping up our end of the bargain. They don't want us to keep more than $7 million at a time in there because of with collateralizing it. And we've been pretty good about keeping with that balance within it. We've been moving monies out. The biggest time we have big deposits from the GO fund, that's usually when we're over a little bit. But they know those funds will be moving out pretty quick. So I'm pretty sure they will negotiate for them next 2 years. It's just going to be the interest rate on the CDs will be the key factor on what they're going to give us on that.
I'll make the motion to approve the bank depository bid to negotiate extending current contract that expires August the 1st, 2015.
And you want to name who's going to go do that negotiating?
Excuse me?
You want to name who will go doing that negotiating?
Who do you want to do that negotiation?
You gotta be able to do it.
Well,
Yes. Pete went last time. Last time when Barbara was here, Pete and Barbara went and negotiated that with them. They talked to Gerald and Corrine, so.
I went one time with them.
Okay.
I think I'm disqualified from negotiating.
With the Fall City National Bank?
Oh, not with Falls City.
Okay, it's just Fall City that you're
It'll
negotiating
just be
with.
with Falls City.
Only to negotiate with Falls City.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
that's fine, I
Okay.
don't mind doing that.
Okay. And I have a form that's saved on my computer that I can forward to your secretary, and
Okay.
it's the little bid, the sheet that they can have if they want to do that.
Okay, if you'll do that.
In
Okay.
addition to my motion on item number 5, it's to give the authority to the judge to negotiate.
Who will submit the advertisement for the paper?
Well, we're negotiating.
So we don't have to even
I don't-
notify that we're negotiating?
I don't think so. It's just if we were bidding it.
So,
Any other discussion? I'll call for a vote, all in favor of the motion. State exactly what the motion was, whoever made it.
You want me to say it again?
Yes, if you don't mind.
No, not at all, Judge. Okay, I'm making the motion to approve the bank depository bid to negotiate extending the current contract that expires August the 1st, 2015 with the Falls City National Bank, and giving the authority to the Karnes County judge to negotiate.
All right, with that motion before us and the vote, I'll call for the vote at this time. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. All voting for.
Great. Thank you.
So we'll
Thank you, ma'am.
negotiate and see if we can get it done by the next meeting.
Okay.
I don't know why we could not. I'm sure we will.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. That concludes item 5 on the agenda. That will bring us to item 6, which is the closing of the special call meeting. There is no further business to be conducted, so I would move that the call meeting close and that we convene the budget workshop meeting to immediately follow the closing of the regular meeting. Is there a second to that motion? 2 seconds. All in favor of signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. All voting for. Meeting's closed. I'll now convene item 7. I'll convene into a budget workshop meeting. Luana, you've got the things that we need to look at, start looking at. We need to look at everything there is to look at on a budget situation now, but if you'll start us off with whatever you've got.
Okay, I handed out a packet to each of you. I think I'm loud enough where everybody can hear me. I don't have to get up and move, right, please, and thank you. Since we don't have a full court this morning, I want to just touch on some generalized items that we need to consider for the budget. First off, everybody's big question is what's happening with the Eagle Ford and how long is it going to last and how do we need to plan? There was an article in the Victoria paper yesterday where Omar Garcia, the president and CEO of the South Texas Energy and Economic Roundtable Steer Committee, projects that despite the slow production, the shale activity is estimated to double over the next decade. The prices have leveled off a little bit, so you're beginning to see the activity resume. The numbers that they provided in this article, of course, are specific to Victoria County, but to date, Victoria County has benefited to the tune of $363 million of economic impact, and they expect that to double to $687 million in the next 10 years. So it's not gone. We may have a little hickey, a little slowdown as far as property tax valuations, etc., but we are still greatly benefiting from sales tax. So even though we need to be cautious, as we always do, it's not gone, so we will still have some pretty good times. I don't know how many of y'all keep up with the legislative updates, but House Bill 1, the General Appropriations Bill, contains $10 million per year for historic courthouse restoration funding. Of course, that's insufficient to reduce the backlog, but it is a great increase over the last allocation during the biennium. I know the Historical Commission had indicated that they wanted us to apply for everything that we possibly wanted this year because they're tired of these little incremental projects. I'm concerned as to how much we might get. I really don't think out of $10 million we will get the $4 million that we still are eligible for. We're supposed to have cost estimates today on the square footage estimate for the entire restoration, and then more precise, detailed estimates by the end of July. So we're going to have to take into consideration in our capital outlay that we are going to be funding a big portion of this project. We have to decide how much we want to say we will spend out of our own money, because that also goes in with the bid packet, which also will get you more points depending on how much you're spending of your own personal money, or the county's own personal money. There's also additional funding for the mental health programs. Hopefully when we receive our request from Camino Real for their budget assistance, that will be taken into account, and maybe our request will at least stay consistent, if not decrease possibly. I'd asked Lorraine for dollars as far as the EMS JP offices and completion date. She anticipates the estimated completion date to be December 9th based on the extensions that were granted Tuesday in court. And we'll probably have in the area of $350,000 left to fund in next budget year. Of that, approximately $55,000 is allocated for furnishings and fixtures. I don't know if that's going to be adequate. That's something, Dennis, that we need to work on.
Yeah, and I've been in contact with Lorraine also. I think it's going to be more than adequate. I mean, as far as furnishings go, I mean, we have furniture now that we're using that's fine. I don't see the need in running out and buying a bunch of brand new stuff just because we're moving into a new building. So I think that's going to be way more than adequate.
One thing that I'll need to check with is with JP1, Captain Stewart.
I don't know if the furnishings she's using now are the City of Kennedy, since they are in City of Kennedy's building, or if they're the county's and we'll need to, buy new if they're the City of Kennedy's.
Is there any conflict going on between the City of Kennedy and her and that office or anything? I'm never sure who's.
I haven't heard any
Doing
rumblings lately. I know there were rumblings earlier this year, and that is why we moved the JP into the new EMS facility. So we would not be renting with the City of Kennedy anymore.
And so we'll be away from them, and that conflict hopefully will be gone, although I've lived in Kennedy for 50-something years, and there's going to be some more conflict of some kind that they're going to that's just the way it works down there. I don't care what anybody thinks or says. I've watched it pretty close for a long time. I live in Kennedy, and I don't always agree with what goes on there or here, either one, but we'll stay involved with it and hopefully keep it for the best interest of the county. That's what we're all about. And they don't always remember that, and they're out trying to get more on the highway, and we'll deal with all of that.
Another potential office issue that we may have will be with JP4 in Runge. I know David has mentioned several building issues, and we rent the building from the city of Runge.
And the building issues in the building that we're in now.
Yes, that he occupies now.
Yeah.
They've got window issues, non-locking windows. They've got flooding issues when we have downpours. Of course, we're not individualizing offices today, but that may be something that David does address when it's his turn. But we may, kind of keep that in our hip pocket and think we may need to think of a different location for them.
And if anybody has any information concerning that or any part of it, well, please feel free to communicate with members of the court and with the auditor, with the clerk, and anybody else that wants to talk about it.
We have had ongoing discussions for several of the last meetings about office space and office location. Although we aren't looking to have the courthouse completed until possibly late 17, early 18, I think any movement of offices, we need to take that into consideration so we're not multiply moving offices, relocation. The second page in y'all's packet is a list of offices and buildings available. On the spreadsheet, I indicated where each office is now, where they will be at the courthouse completion. Some of them are relocating already this next fiscal year to new locations. I know when this building was originally designed, this area was for the extension service. The district clerk's office was for juvenile probation. My thoughts are that those offices should assume the occupancy of the spaces designated for them. I've talked to Neva, and she said that is more than adequate space for them, the current district clerk's office. I have not talked to either Megan or Jared as far as them relocating back here where they were originally designated. I doubt that that would be a problem for them. And that would leave the entire 115 North Market building empty. That could be renovated into additional offices. There's already set offices in there, but there's space that is empty space right now or non-occupied that could be utilized for different offices. My concern is the recent purchase of the North Brown, the 111 North Brown building, the old Canal building, whether that is actually a necessary building that the county continues to own, or if we resell it. I know Pete's defense would be there's the back area that can be for the shop, for the maintenance area. If we don't hire a maintenance supervisor that is capable of doing carpentry work, electrical work, that we're still going to have to hire those services out, I don't think there's a need for a shop per se. Yeah, there's need for storage, things like that, but I don't think we need to overextend ourselves in the real estate market. If we don't need it and don't need to use it, it needs to go back on the tax rolls.
We really may have already extended further than we should have, but that's neither here nor there. We can deal with that problem.
Right.
I just soon, with that being said, I just soon get out of that old doctor's office and strictly use the Canal building for, put the, we're gonna create HR departments, and that's gonna have to go somewhere. You're gonna have to, we can take, this question to me right now, I haven't talked to David yet, but the way he keeps talking about the reduction in load of the permitting, So that kind of tells me that maybe that the special projects and the 911 lady maybe can be one job. I don't know, you know, it depends on what.
It used to be.
Yeah, with there, and then move them into one building itself, one office. One thing, again, whenever Daisy's had problems in her office, so there has to be a place for Daisy to go temporarily while when they start working on the sheriff's office and her office to correct that problem. So, and then if DPS ends up moving, or whatever that's gonna happen there, we have allocated space for them at the jail, then maybe if elections goes to the thing, we can probably maybe offer the license renewal in that office, if possible. There's gonna be some space available. Once the completion of the courthouse is done, then the HR, if Megan and the juvenile probation move this building, that other building is gonna be available.
Right.
So we can have,
And that building already has some office space designated, already built in, and then it has 2 large rooms that also could be remodeled or partitioned or whatever into office space, which could also house special projects and 9/11 addressing. I just think we need to look at consolidating as much as we can, not minimizing the space where people don't have enough space to do their job.
but that building there is 2 years down the road, the juvenile probation. You know, that's gonna be in 17, 18.
Right, but to think that far in
Yeah.
the future, we don't want to remodel 111 North Brown and put a bunch of money into it, and then in 2 years say, oh, we don't need it. I think that it's real important that we consider the offices we have, the space that's required, the offices that might be added. Shelby, you mentioned HR. There's been discussion of offices for commissioners. There's been discussion of creating an IT department or outsourcing it. There's still, in this current budget, the county financial officer position. So we need to, I think the court needs to decide for sure what offices we're looking at and allocate space cautiously.
I don't know if, back to the moving, I don't know if Kathy has included in her budget the move from her office, computers and all that to the next building.
I don't know. I have not talked to her yet about that.
And also, coming in, we had the discussion about the fiber optics the other day. That's gonna be another thing that we're gonna have to decide, because other than that, you're gonna end up, to what county buildings we wanna run this to.
Well, and that's going to be a decision item quickly, because that's going to have to be included in the plans for the courthouse.
We've got, recount for me, all of the buildings that are available.
They're on the bottom of this page.
Down here. And I'm not sure, let's see. I'm colorblind, that didn't help.
We got green. I just trying to help you out.
All right. We've got, what we've got listed on here, and I assume this is all of them, although I'm not sure. Annex 2, which is at 210 West Calvert, which
That's this building.
this, and Annex 1, which is 200 East Calvert.
That's the tax office, treasurer, and auditor.
Okay. And then the jail on Wall Street, is that the new jail or the old jail?
That's the new one.
What about the old jail? We've got it still.
We
Does that not
won't
count
soon.
as a building anymore?
Not that's going to be occupiable, no, because it will be flat soon.
Okay. Who's gonna flatten it? Is anybody obligated at this point?
Well, the county will have to do it. I'm not sure what requirements THC will put on us for that demolition.
Is that one that we can demolish and not get in trouble because it's a hysterical building or something?
They have given verbal authorization.
That doesn't work.
Exactly. And they're very restrictive on what that corner can be used for.
Where, do we have something in writing from them?
I have not ever seen anything. There has been discussion at several of the meetings I've attended. I've suggested it be provided in writing so we're clear, but I haven't seen anything.
Well, I haven't seen anything about it, and I'm going to want to pretty bad before we take any real action that involves that. And we've got to have something in writing. We can't just sit here and say that the state's going to do what they say they're going to do. If any of you believe that, you really are living back in a different world.
You know, one thing you don't have mentioned on here, and I think we need to add it on, is the records facility across the street.
Yes.
Because
Where the old records are stored, is that what you're talking about?
because that thing, it probably needs some, it's still a good building, I don't know, but it could use some renovation just to make it more accessible. I think Dave, Carol and I were there, we had a hard time locking the door. And,
Carol, do you have all of the records stored from the county clerk's office that are not in your office in this building
Yes, sir.
over there?
Yes, sir. There's other records too, there's permanent records from the tax office and.
Does anybody have a list of the records that are in that building?
No, sir.
It's
Not a collective list.
comprehensive. We need to get a list of the things that are in there, whoever has the say-so over them, and I don't have any idea who it is at this point. I knew at one time years ago, but
Well, each office has their own records retention schedule that they must follow. I know 3 years ago that we did the mass shredding, and a lot of records were shredded out of that department that were available for that. There's other things stored there that aren't necessarily just records. There's old computers, there's light bars from the sheriff's office.
there's
Radiation.
some
detector.
big map equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Laminators, etc.
And what about this other building over here? This one just outside the door, that other record, is that a record building, election building, or where is that?
It's a storage, it's election storage. It was bought with HAVA grant money.
And that's where we used to store our old election equipment when we had the big equipment.
So what's in there now, just computers?
There's
and
still
stuff?
the ramps that were from the election office that were for ADA compliance, and still some of the machines some old records in there, and some old, are there any more election machines that did not get sold yet?
A few,
There's
yeah.
still some election machines.
They've already been declared surplus, we just gotta do something. I got rid of many of them, but you wouldn't,
But
when
if-
they will get through with rid of the last, I think there's 10 left in or something like that.
Sound like we need to get a record shredder here too, start shredding some more.
Well, we've got money in our current budget for a mass shredding, but to be able to actually contract with somebody to do that, we need an estimate from every department, how many bank boxes they have, to make it worth the company's time to come down here and us not get gouged on the price.
well, it seems to me we need from each department head then a estimate of what records they have that should be shredded or could be shredded.
We have space available in our building upstairs now also, since the relocation of several offices where the occupants in our building are storing records now also. The tax office, the
They're
treasurer's
just
office.
pitching them in there in piles.
Well, they are organized, believe it or not.
By whom?
Whoever takes them up there. That way you know those
And
are
they're
the treasurers. those
they're
are
the only ones that know
They
what's
have
up
to
there.
Carry them up those stairs? So we can't, so it's just a liability if somebody carries them up there and they can follow, right?
Well, I know there's been discussion of repairing the dumbwaiter to serve that purpose. as far as those boxes, but it's nice because, at least in the auditor's office, when we pack records away, we label them, we put on the box the destroy date, when it's eligible, etc. So then when we do something mass, we can just pull 10 boxes and say that's what we can get rid of right now.
Well, can you tell, if I went over there and looked at all the boxes, could I tell when they were destroyable?
You could tell it on ours. I don't know about all the other
Ours
departments.
as well. Our elections does it that way. I'm sure, pretty sure most of the departments do. I've been even in that other storage room, I've seen something with county attorney and it says the same thing, destroy on, you know, whatever, so we do write that on the box.
Anything that's not permanent generally is labeled with the destruction date. At least in that other building.
I would surely like to see a list of all of the things and the destruction dates. Does every department head have materials stored in the same place?
Most likely, that I can tell.
Well, we don't have any storage.
You don't have any over there.
Yeah.
Where are yours stored?
Ours, a few of them are out there, and then the ones since I've been here, we've been keeping in our storage room right next to us.
Where is out there? You
Out there is
said a few of
that-
them are out there.
That building y'all were just talking about, that's funded by HAVA.
It's in between here and the courthouse. There's a small metal storage building that's
Yeah, I know where it is.
And we're not using it anymore other than the ramps. And, you know, really, if we get a better space, we don't really need it. And I had talked to Secretary of State at one point in time, and they said as long as we've had it a certain amount of time, I remember talking to you about it, Alana, but it's been a year or two, that they were fine because we've used the value of it for what we purchased it for.
Do you have anything in writing from them?
I do not, sir. Other than, of course, the grant information that tells you.
Yeah.
Well, I
It seems to me that we need every department head to go and see for sure what they've got and what can be done with it and how it needs to be done, how it needs to be handled. Maybe this exists and I just don't know about it. It's possible. There's 2 or 3 things I still don't know about, but I'm learning. So give this a little thought if the department heads will, and get in touch with me, and if I don't hear from all of you, I will get back in touch with y'all. I have to see if I can determine where the county judge's records are, because if we've got any, I'm not aware of it. We probably do somewhere.
There are some over there.
Do we, JP2, do we rent her office or she,
No, the county purchased the
County
building that
purchased
she
it.
said.
and how's your building? Is it needing,
It's got a few little leaks that can be fixed pretty easily. And I've noticed with all the trimmers that we had in Fall City, the floor is a little unlevel, but other than that, we're good.
What needs to be done to it to make it so you don't say other than those?
We can't predict whether we're gonna have any more trimmers or not, so I
I
wouldn't.
understand that. What do you need done to it the way it is now, so
It's
that,
fine. It's fine. It's just that there's a few little cracks in the floor. It's fine.
okay. I'll come up and visit one day and you can show me. I'd like to know
Sure.
exactly what we're talking about. All right. Anything else on that?
Well, with the mention of all office relocations, and Shelby, I think you actually brought up DPS, whether they are going to locate in the new jail facility where offices were made specifically to accommodate them, or whether they're going to stay here. The county is obligated to provide state agencies office space. Adult probation, juvenile probation, DPS, any other state agencies that have a presence constant in the county. There's nowhere in the statute that says they get their choice or they get to mandate what they need, etc. As long as it's operational space. I know there's been a lot of controversy about whether DPS is going to stay here or whether they're going to the new jail. But I know in the plans, concessions were made to have them in the new jail. So that's something the court's going to need to decide, which will then flow through to the relocation of several other offices.
What kind of concessions were made?
They moved a wall to be able to make more office space in the original plans. Shelby, you probably can address it more.
Yeah, in the jail with it, they actually just changed, the county reconfigured that building. We made a change order just so we could put DPS into that office in that far corner where they could come in the back door, and they'd have, and at the time it was for 5 or 6 people, or 6, plus their secretary. And it had all the additional plugs were put in. They would just, there'd be a lot of desks along the wall that they could utilize to conduct their business. They were in and out so much it was not going to be an issue. And now, they say they have the license and weight guys coming in, but license and weight to me aren't here that much. They're in and out as well. They're going from different counties, and you have, as far as I know, we're not going to be getting any more troopers than what we have.
I understood the license and weight guys were interested in having an office in this building. Is that not right?
I don't know why they would need to be separated from the other DPS officers. They are not, as are no DPS officers sitting behind a desk 8 hours every day. The only one that's in that office every day would be their administrative assistant.
Who is the ranking DPS officer in the county?
Sergeant Floyd, I believe is his last name.
Yeah, and I know what the sergeant for the license and weight is. He's out of Victoria, I believe.
And we also have the building at the weigh station that license and weight could occupy that as their office space also.
Well, who's operating that this week?
The county owns and pays all bills for that. The city of Karnes City is receiving the benefit of most of the revenue from that.
And how did that come about? Does anybody want to venture a guess?
My understanding is the city of Karnes City annexed the area and posted notices on or in the building that all citations are to be filed with the city of Karnes City municipal judge.
But that's not what they're doing, I don't believe. Filing all of the things with
Talking to a former JP, I was told that a municipal judge cannot handle all the citations that a license and weight or DPS would issue. And so if there are some that they can't handle, then they have to give them back to DPS, and DPS either refiles them with the JP or they get lost in the
I'll
shuffle.
talk to
Caroline, is that all correct? Lucille is the one that had told me that.
I don't think so.
Can't handle as in what the fee or the violation was.
Some of the weight tickets, they can't go that high on their fines.
The sign on the door that says that tickets will, all citations will be filed with JP1, the city of Karnes City, and JP2. All weight citations, all citations at the scale. Got to the picture of that.
So who put that sign there?
That's a good question.
Does it
Have
have
the
a
authority.
signature on it or a
No.
letterhead?
No, it just, it doesn't, nobody can tell me how it showed up.
Why can't anybody go tear it down?
Exactly.
Well, I don't have a key to that building.
You know, I'm saying if it wasn't approved by the county, if nobody talks to the county about it, and the county is footing the bill, and it wasn't discussed with the county, and there's no signature or letterhead, why can't someone just go and take it down? If that's county property, if the county is paying for all the bills.
Oh, and not only all the operational bills, but we put the facility together. We provided the awning, the scales, the building.
We own all of the
Correct,
parts of that
correct.
deal that they.
So if somebody else is going to benefit from the revenues, they need to pay this county rent or a percentage of their collections or something.
Very big share.
Well, yeah, and and you'll hear the comment that they don't like where the scale is at because it doesn't provide them adequate space to take trucks out of service because it sits at an angle. Ideal place would have been in that flat place. I don't know how this place ever got picked.
Originally, from years ago, I remember it was when Alfred Pavelik was here, the discussion was to have it in the low spot east of Stripes.
Yeah.
But the way they would have had to build a overpass to facilitate that, somehow the paperwork got misplaced or not executed or whatever, and so that went by the wayside.
I'd like to get the DPS sergeant here for both of them and have them talk to the court and find out about this piece of paper, who put it there, if they know who did it, or is it something, at least get the complete requirement if they're allowed to do that or not. I mean,
Why don't we go out and talk to them before we demand that they come in and report to us and tell what's going on?
they can come in and talk to you in your office, I mean, I don't care.
I've met with a couple of the troopers, and they have a lot more information than what we're giving out here, but I would rather each one of y'all go and talk with them, because I made my meetings with them and everything, and they gave me a lot of good information on why they're here, not there, on the way station, where the tickets are going, where everything. I think each and every one of us should go out and talk with them, but not just first bring them out here like the judge said, not yank them in here. Then we decide if we bring them in here or not.
Well, I
If
think-
we ask them to come in, perhaps.
I think it should be the sergeants that y'all are
Yeah.
talking to,
Yeah.
not necessarily
Who
the
is
troopers.
the main officer out there?
I have an email from him, and I believe it's Sergeant Floyd is the
If he's a,
floors.
I'll come by your office and get his name and how you contact him.
Yeah. I have his number if you want me to get it to you at the end of the meeting.
Okay. All right.
If I may, before we get off that subject, I just want to remind you that we had talked about for the elections office, utilizing, the DPS office if they vacate, because it would be perfect. And we do get many complaints about voter, their access, and especially for the disabled. And so, yes, that's a perfect space, and I know I've said this before, but I also understand that someone's in it, and if they're going to stay there, that's fine, but I do want the court to please keep in mind that we should be at least considered for a better space than what we're in right now that's more accessible to our voters. I just want y'all to please keep that in mind.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, now that we've almost destroyed every building in the county and rearranged it, let's move on to the next thing that is in your packet. It's a comp time accrual. Elaine graciously prepared this yesterday for me, so I would have it to present to y'all. A big budgetary concern of mine the last several years has been the comp time that's on the books. And she has broken this down by employee and then subtotaled by department. If there's going to be the consideration of any increases in pay, I definitely think this comp needs to be paid out at the current pay rates, which I suggested doing last year before all the big raises came into effect. Because if you'll look on page 11, the total of comp hours on the books as of June 5th totaled $116,105.34. That's just the wages. That doesn't include the Social Security contribution. That doesn't include the retirement contribution. You can add another 19% to that, to what it's going to cost the county, plus another 0.005 for unemployment, plus it will affect long-term disability compensation. It's a big dollar amount for the county.
How much did
$116,105.34. You've got big expenditure. Of course, your major department expense is the sheriff's department, which is $85,819. You have road and bridge, which is $17,000 plus. Your offices are not that great. You have $3,900 in the tax office. You have a little over 1,000 in the county clerk's office. Other than that, all other offices are, the library has $3,800. Most other offices are below $500, but that's a big expense. And like I said, before there's any increases in pay issued, awarded, budgeted, I think we need to get rid of the comp that's on the books, and every department needs to try diligently not to let it accumulate again. Like I said, this is broken down by individuals. You can look at some of these, and yeah, they've been employees of the county for a long time, but to have 791 hours of comp time on the books, that's crazy.
Excuse me. I'm not positive, but I seem to recall last year when y'all were talking about comp time, about having them at a certain amount, at a certain time, have to use that comp time instead of having to pay for it. Let them take that comp time off.
There is.
I'm sure there was some discussion about that last
Specifics
year.
in the policy manual, but there's also a waiver for the sheriff's department. They have their own requirements, and they can accumulate more. They have a longer period of time to take it, being law enforcement.
Yeah.
But some of these are just really, we
I'm
have,
talking about offices.
right, because it shouldn't be a savings account for departure of employment.
Right.
We have paid out some big dollars in the last 6 months for comp time when people have separated from the county.
And that,
Several
Yeah.
thousands.
because when they worked that comp time, it might have been a 1 hourly rate, then they got a raise
That's right.
and another raise, and
That's
now they're
correct.
getting comp time at this
And
instead of
that's
back.
based on the law. You have to pay them at the
Yeah.
current rate. You can't pay them at when they acquired that extra time.
And then, I know that the sheriff's office, I've talked with you that a lot, but the sheriff's office is the biggest one because for a while, they never had the staff. They got the staff now, so they can, Robert, I know, and Gwen, I know have been trying to manage the comp time a lot better.
And it
than
has
the other
decreased
departments in the past.
drastically.
Well, it's understandable about the sheriff's department. You're out on a call and it's time for your duty to be over, but you can't just leave that call and go home.
And those hours that I indicated earlier, 791, 562, those are employees that have been with the department for several years. But we've got some relatively new employees with the department that have 287 hours of comp, 260 hours of comp. So, we really need 258 hours,
And those are new employees?
relatively new, yes.
And something also to think about with the sheriff's department, not to pick on them, but whenever they leave, we're also paying out their holiday time, because if they work a holiday, they earn an extra day to take off later on that holiday. And if they don't take that day off, then we're paying them for that too. So they'll get their comp paid, their holiday paid, and vacation paid. And we paid one deputy, his final check was $10,000 after taxes and everything else. We had the bank to call us and go, is this a real check? Yes, it's a real check, you can cash it. And that was one. So there's a lot to consider when you're paying out that comp time. It gets that off the books, and then when they do leave, it's just the holidays you really have to worry about. So you're not getting such a big hit.
I would add that the sheriff's department has corrected the accruals of comp time. When we went to the new time clock, of course, deputies are expected to show up before their scheduled time of duty, but now they're not allowed to punch in until, they're only allowed to work 12 hours. If they're scheduled for 12 hours, only allowed to punch in for 12 hours unless there's some circumstances to where they have to go over and then they have to document it. But the reason it was adding up was, of course, you want your relief to show up early so you can go home and pass on what you have to pass on. Well, they were punching in. Well, now we're not punching in like that no more. Basically giving those few minutes away.
And just one more thing, and I know Luana and them know this too, but you didn't mention it, and I want to make sure that y'all understand, they might have earned it when they were only making $8 an hour. I found this out last year. But because they're making 12 or 15 an hour, I don't know. Anyway, you have to pay it out at what they're making when they leave.
Yes.
So You know, the other thing that we talked about at one of our meetings a while back was changing it to overtime or something, considering, you know, some other method of paying for that, because you want to remember that too, because we're losing even more money, if you think about it, than what they ever even earned.
And also, with the salary stuff, with the time, with comp time, is that I've had some discussions, and I know a lot of counties are starting to go to this, is we call personal time off, where I know we've had some employees here that say they don't have much vacation left, so they didn't take off a day, so they take off 4 hours of vacation, they turn in 4 hours sick. Well, in essence, that's not true. I mean, it's forging a document because you're not really sick. You're just trying to make the time up if they don't have any comp time.
Your policy says you can use it if you have no other time left.
I know,
you can use sick
but
leave for that.
what I'm saying is that maybe it's something this year or in the future we need to look at is change it to a personal time off type thing. So we have X number of hours and how you use it is how you use it.
The only thing with the personal time off, and this comes from Marianne Signs with TAC, the human resources person we talked to, you would not be able to have your sick leave pool anymore because people couldn't donate toward the sick leave. And right now we don't pay out sick leave. And if you accumulate 8 hours automatically of personal time off and not sick leave, you're going to pay that out when they leave if they don't take it. So it's a good, it's one of those catch-22 kind of things. So it's something to consider, but you've got to do the pros and the cons of it.
Another thing, and I don't know if I should save this discussion until David's here since he's also new on the court, about the salary survey and the results that happened last year. I included in your packet the mid, and max rates provided by the salary survey. Judge Long, last year at budget time, the Commissioners Court, well, let me back up. When the salary survey was presented, they presented a minimum, a middle, and a maximum pay range by position. Their suggestion was to move everyone to the minimum pay range that wasn't there, and if it was more than a 15% increase, to give them 15% last year and then make up the additional 3-5% this year to get them to that minimum range. But nobody in their recommendation should have received more than a 15% increase in 1 year. The court decided during the budget to move everyone to the middle pay range. And if you'll look on the legal sheets of paper, I have given you what the fiscal year 14 pay rate was, the current pay rate, and the approximate percent increase by position. Some positions increased 0.5%, some positions increased 30%, some positions increased 35% in 1 year. In the salary survey company's schedule, they have a 15% space between minimum, middle, and maximum with the intention of it taking 5 years to get to the next step. So a 3% increase is included in the salary schedule as recommended per year. So what the court is going to have to decide is whether we totally scratch out the minimum pay rate and make the recommended mid rate the new minimum. If any new employees are hired, that they should start at whatever the declared minimum rate is, unless there is extenuating circumstances. You know, you've got 20 years experience as this, so you qualify to move up to the next pay rate, or special circumstances. But the whole purpose of investing the money in a salary survey was to get the pay rate of the county marketable with the area, and also to establish steps per year. Not just, and we've had this problem, it was one of the complaints, and we'll probably have it again now. We've got, for instance, in the tax office, you have a deputy tax collector clerk who has 7 years' experience making the same thing as an employee with less than a year experience. There's no compensation for longevity. In the salary survey as permitted or presented, you have those steps built in. If you start at this, you stay at that until you reach 1 year, and then you get that increase. If not, the purpose of this salary survey went totally to the wind. If we're not going to utilize it and establish some consistency so positions are not only fairly compensated, but not equally compensated.
Can I ask a question? On the midpoint for each of these ranges, was the intent of the survey to demonstrate that that midpoint is someone that is doing everything that you expect out of that job?
I'm not sure that they did it with that intention because we don't have true evaluations, employee evaluations.
My experience has been in the past that usually you have the minimum, and that midpoint is relatively someone that's been in a position for a period of time, is demonstrating everything that you really expect out of them. So that minimum and that maximum is the ranges that you have for progression.
Right.
And
And the way they built it in, it was progression annually, a 3% increase every year. And ideally, employee evaluations would be great.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, because salaries are public in the governmental aspect, then you have the rumbling over here, and then you have the potential issues with the department head not wanting to raise this one, not raise this one, give the same thing across the board to keep the office atmosphere congenial.
No, but I think that if you have a process in place to have the kind of information available to the supervisors, the people responsible on how you want that to work,
Right.
and the employee understanding what that process is, then I think there's a lot more transparency
Right.
on how things are done, and that's critical.
And again, sometimes there are employees with longevity that don't necessarily put forth 110%, only put forth 90%. So maybe you want your 110%er with 2 years of experience to get a bigger raise than your 10-year employee.
Because the end salary should reflect the performance and the time and grade or time and position.
Right.
I mean, so that employees understand that if that maximum is where they're at, then you know what, that's going to be the end game there, and you're still going to be expected to perform,
Right.
your job to the maximum. And if there's a change in structure of 2 or 3%, then you could likely get that if you're
Right.
still there.
Performing. And I think this is a good reason too to develop an HR department to help to assist the department heads in doing evaluations for their employees.
And I agree with that. There should be evaluations.
Truthful evaluations.
But again, for budget purposes, and that's going to be a big factor, is the court's going to need to decide, are we maintaining or changing the survey numbers? Are we going with the 3% built-in increase per year? Or is there going to be any type of increase? I know the COLA for 2015 is 1.7%, but when they built this schedule, they built it on 3% increases per year.
But the 3 is twice as much as the 1.7 right now, right?
Almost, yes. And all predictions right now for 16 by Social Security Administration is 0 COLA.
The following one. And that's just something we gotta be thinking of, right, on our,
But it's a decision that's
It's
going to
a-
have to be made really
Yes.
early in this process.
Same thing with we need to figure out a way to monitor the appointed people. Because you got some of them that are just, we have it, I don't know who they would report to. They never know when they're here, they know when they're gone.
Well, that's something that needs to be addressed in the policy manual, I
Yeah.
think, and Shelby, you and I have talked about it, that there needs to be rules and regulations as far as accumulation of comp, sick, vacation, et cetera, for all appointed positions such that report to Commissioners Court, such as the EMS Director, the Road and Bridge Administrator, Elections Administrator, this HR position,
Veterans officer.
right, because they fall in the gray area of the policy manual right now. There's nothing specific to them, and they aren't technically, and I don't want to use the word just, I can't think of another one, just an employee of the county, because they're a little higher because they are department heads or officials, but I think that's something that needs to be addressed also.
And that's one thing I've been wanting to do is when we create this HR position, even address the overtime and everything else like that, you know. we can do all that.
Do you have a question?
Well, I would just like to say a couple of things on that, if I may, because, yes, the appointed positions are appointed, but they, like, for example, mine, I had to have a consensus of 5 people who hired me, and I actually answer to the Elections Commission, that's who I answer to, which includes yourself, Judge, and the county clerk, the county tax assessor collector, as well as the 2 heads of the parties. So I just want to state that, in my opinion, why should I be watched any more than the elected officials? I more than give enough time, and I'm not saying that anybody's saying I don't. Please know that. But if you're going to watch the times that I'm not here, then watch the times that I am here. You know, and that's the way I've always looked at it, because when you're in a salaried position, you understand that you've got to work until the job is done. And it's never a 40-hour-a-week job. There are times when you can take advantage of the fact that it's slow and you can take off, but people don't. The problem with, you know, taking and I know, you know, Dennis specifically, as well as, you know, any of the other appointed officials that were mentioned, we all work more than 40 hours. I mean, it would be nice to work only 40 hours. And I just feel like I'm no less, and I shouldn't be figured any less than the county clerk, you know, any of the people who are actually elected by the people, you know. So I just want to keep that in mind. But also, while we were talking about the salary survey, there is just one little flaw in it that I would like to point out, and I think there were, you know, a few other ones. But for example, my position, again, I'm an appointed official, and my position for some reason was rated lower and lower salary, but I guess it would say lower grade than a first assistant to another appointed official, and that doesn't make any kind of sense to me. And when I tried to get the answer, and it's not that I'm looking for more money. Obviously, yes, we all want more money, but I just want to point this out because it bothers me more that my position, whether I'm in it or someone else is in it, needs to be looked at for the position that it is. And when I asked the question of the salary survey, I couldn't get an answer. They couldn't justify it, nor did they even attempt to answer my question as to why that would be. And so I would like your assistance in that. If you can talk to the people who did the salary survey and find out what their reasoning was, because even when we had done the previous salary survey, my ranking would be definitely above another appointed official's first assistant. So that part there didn't make any sense to me, and I would just like to have it, for my own mind, justified. And I think I have a right to ask the question, but there were a couple of us that wanted to ask questions last year, and we weren't allowed to question it at all. There was only 1 or 2 people that were allowed to even talk to the salary survey people. And so I still sit and think, you know, I think I deserve an answer to my question. Let's just put it that way.
But you filled out the survey that we all filled out on what our jobs were and what we did during the day, and your staff did, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I
And
did.
then they came in and got that from everybody?
Correct.
Okay.
We have had good news from the retirement TCDRS. Currently, our retirement rate for the county is 11.88% of every dollar paid, be it regular pay, comp pay, vacation pay, salary supplements from the state, anything like that. And we will drop January 1st of 2016 to 10.84%. In 2014, for the second time in history, the court gave the retirees a 1% COLA raise. If that would transpire again effective January 31st, that would add 0.11% to our retirement contribution. So that would make our retirement match at 10.95% as opposed to the 10.84%. And again, that does not go into effect until January. The election has to be made by mid-December. So that's something else the court needs to think about as far as if we want to give the retirees an increase. The way that we have our plan adopted, it's mandatory every employee participate, and it is a 7% employee contribution rate of their gross salary. And the county currently has elected to match 2 to 1 of each dollar of the employee contribution.
When was that decision made?
The 2 to 1?
Yeah.
Was it Alger or was it Alfred? You were here? Okay, so that would have been 2008.
When was the last time we gave a COLA on the retirees? About 2 years ago,
It
right?
was 14. We gave it 1%. Yeah. And then we gave like a 3% 5 years before that or something. So there's been 2 COLA raises for retirees.
Did anybody quit as a result of the raises?
No.
I wasn't here then, so, I mean, I've lived here and I've watched the county employees for
Now, when you say
50-something years,
Quit.
and I had never seen one quit. I'm not real sure.
Right. No one has, they may have quit because of the lack of a raise or not liking their salary, or they found a job with a higher salary, but no one's ever quit.
I'm not sure I've ever seen that happen. Perhaps I have and just didn't realize it. Okay.
I plan to actually provide y'all with notebooks once I have all the departmental requests, but I don't want to have to go back and add pages later. I have sent out the letters to all the entities that the county provides for their budget operations, the DA's office, the court coordinator's office, Soil and Water Conservation District, Camino Real, etc. Those requests are supposed to be in to me today. So then we'll have that to work with also. But other than those items that were very generalized, I don't have anything else today unless y'all want to talk about something else or throw ideas out.
Well, I'd like for you to go through this capital outlay with the estimated budget for 2014-15.
Okay, that's the year we're in now.
Yeah, I'd like to see what if you have a list and idea of what has been done and has not been done, and then we could maybe identify if any of these departments are going to continue to do what's on this thing.
Okay, the EMS facility, as I mentioned earlier, we should have about $350,000 to include in next year's budget. The communications tower, that will be complete. The mobile shelves in the evidence room will be completed. Courthouse restoration, those dollars there are our part of the roof project. We will have to put in whatever the court decides our match needs to be on the total project. The jail facility, I have an email to Lorraine this morning to find out what we will have left to pay out and what we will be recovering from Hale Mills for prisoner detention, for the architect's costs, etc., due to the extension of time. Nothing has been completed on the renovations at 200 East Calvert. I know we had an estimator in, where did she go? the other day for a paint estimate that was supposed to get that to Vi. We still need to have some things done over there depending on office assignments and staff assignments. There'll be probably some dollars that need to be in next year's budget. The 119 North Brown, nothing has been done there. The Time Clock Plus, those keypads have been acquired. Vi has requested an upgrade to Time Clock Plus, so we will have some outlay there. The tax office, that whole conversion has taken place and been accomplished. There will be things for software licensing and updates that will go under IT, not under capital outlay. The Tyler Technologies has been accomplished. Cop Sync, I think the sheriff put that directly into his budget for all the new ones that are required in the new jail. But we will have that $10,000 for the office desktop notifications for the CompSync availability. AC evaluation and repair. Of course, we've had it evaluated. We're supposed to have repairs done in this building. I understand there's supposed to be a new unit installed. That has not been accomplished yet. Plans for phase 2 of the courthouse restoration. We are in the process. Fisher and Heck are developing those plans now. I'm sure part of those dollars will have to carry over into next year. The lighting replacements have not been done at 200 East Calvert or 119 North Brown. JP3's office floor has not been done. The roof and bathroom repairs at the juvenile probation building have not been done. The fire alarm systems have not been done. The camera system at either building coincide with the new systems at the jail, so those have not been done yet. Additional furniture items for DPS, those haven't been done yet. If we occupy that jail before September 30th, those will be done in this fiscal year. The phone system for the jail, that will be in. The audio visual for video arraignment in the new jail, that should be installed. The kitchen equipment, all the network and server for the new jail, dispatch relocation, all that should be accomplished in this fiscal year, assuming the jail is occupiable. The Tyler Technology, part of that has been done. Not all offices have elected to go to that, so that will be a discussion as to who's still going to try and convert. Storage building, maintenance workshop, that is the building Pete proposed for back here. Obviously, that has not been done. Property acquisition, we did acquire the 111 North Brown building. I know there are rumblings on acquiring other properties, so I'm thinking we'll probably have something in next year's budget for that also. And of course, we'll have in there if we're doing any type of office renovations in any of the existing buildings as they are now.
Are there any more, do you know, any departments requesting any more computers? Because we have computers, it's referred to the IT department, but
I have not gone line item by line on request yet. I'm sure we will have to put a generalized figure for computer replacement, not necessarily specific to any department, because those are things you just can't predict.
On the salary survey, I know we're discussing that too, going maybe making the mid to the low, to the beginning one, and then keeping it at 3%, because it's a 15% difference, so it's keeping it 3% every year till we get to the max. My opinion on this, guys, is start at the low, split, rather than keeping that for 5 years, go 3 years on there, 5%, 5%, 5%, that'll get them to the mid quicker, and then when they get to the mid, that's the new hires, go at a 3%, 3%, 3%. The only problem that I don't want to have is that, I guess I've been here so long, I've heard it all. And what I think we're still going to have is the longevity of them. The people that have been here a long time, they're going to be making X amount of dollars. And then the new hires, after they're here a couple of years, that's why I want to kind of try to get them quick up to the mid-range in 3 years rather than 5 years. Because if not, they'll be arguing about that they're making, my people are making a lot less than your people, but it's not taking into consideration the years that they've been here. And then if you have one person, and just say for an example, you have one person in particular that keeps hiring different people every time and can't keep somebody like employee, well, that's not really anybody's fault but their own. So, or the employees that are leaving or whatever. But that employee is going to keep coming in at the low range, and everybody's going to keep moving up. And if the other departments have their people for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, they're going to be making a lot. And if somebody can't keep their employees, they're going to keep starting off these people really, really low, and it's going to be a big difference then. And
That's one of the perks of longevity. You do get compensated more.
right, but the problem, the difference is there, we need to set this and set it in concrete, because I've been through a lot of different commissioners' courts in my years here with the county, and when you bring in a different commissioner's court, everybody got a different opinion on different things, and different things change, because no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I sit here through all these different commissioners' court, and things do change. But if we're going to set something, we're going to set something, and we got to set something in concrete, and I don't know how to set that, because if another new commissioner's court comes in and we got 3 or 4 different people in here, they're going to change it right there and then. And if enough people, I want to squeaky wheel get the grease, enough people, I've been here long enough to know, come out here and complain about it, commissioner's court's going to feel bad. They're going to change everything that we worked up and all this money we spent on the salary survey to comply with the people and try to make everybody happy. But we got to set something in stone here to where, I mean, keep your employees. If you don't deal with that, they're getting paid a lot less than the other ones. And also, go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you had a question first?
I used to work in Wilson County, and the way they got to make it fair for longevity was they gave $100 per year of service as a Christmas bonus. So if you were there 30 years, you got a $3,000 Christmas bonus. If you were only there 1 year, you only got $100. But that equalized out your longevity. So if you stayed with the county for a long time, you did get more at the end of the year as a bonus. That's something I might think about.
So in Wilson County, David, did every deputy make the same rate of pay and the only differentiation was longevity?
No, I don't know that. I just, and it's been a little while since I worked for Wilson County. That's one of the things they did, so.
Mary?
I think the salary survey you just did is only going to be as good as a process that you put in place to administer.
Yes.
Okay? I think the other thing too that you have to consider that with the changes in the salaries that were made this last fiscal year, I mean, people want to come to work for the county. The wages are competitive now. They weren't in the past. The other thing too that you have is you have a hell of a benefits plan. I mean, you go out there now, there's a lot of places that do not have retirement plans. The county has an excellent retirement plan. And those are the things that people need to understand when they come or apply to work here.
So
I
many
mean, we don't
people
have the
go,
same issue with
I can't buy groceries with my health insurance, but it's a plus, and if you need it,
That's
you
right.
appreciate it. When
The
you
other
have
thing
it.
too is, when you come to work for the county, there's stability to a large degree in working for the county than it is. Look out there now. The food bank lines, we have people now from the oil field, because guess what? They got laid off. They were making $20, $30 an hour, but now they don't have a job. So again, those are the things that we need to market as a county employer. What are the things that people can come into this and know, what kind of future they could have with us here in the county. So yeah, you're right. We just did a salary survey, but we need to put a process in place to properly administer, to reward the employees that we have that are doing the job, and to make sure that those people that aren't doing the job that we expect aren't getting the same increase as that other person. Okay? So again, just some points.
Today's judge.
Since we're discussing salaries, I would ask the court to please take a good look at our salaries. My chief clerk, her salary is more than mine. So I would ask that if y'all can consider and take a look at what was done last year and if it can be changed.
Okay, to reiterate discussion.
And you know, you're talking about longevity pay. Well, I've been here more than 30 years. I've probably been here close to 35 years.
To explain a little further on that for you, Judge Long, because you weren't here. When the salary survey presented their tabulation sheets, they had an error on the chief deputy's pay rates on their calculation. Their sheets showed $35,531.20, but if you go back and take the hourly rate, it should have been $32,531.20. When I discovered that, I brought it back to Commissioner's Court, told them of the error. We had processed one payroll for that fiscal year at that time. And I asked the court, do you want to make the correction to those positions and pay them what is in the survey? Or do you want to leave it as it is? And the court elected to leave those 3 positions at the higher approximately $3,000 more a year than what it actually should have been. So that's another decision that's going to come up if the court wants to assign those positions with the correct salary, freeze any raises for those positions until they reach what it should have been correctly. Again, that was an error by C. King when they did their tabulation report, and until I was itemizing out for payroll everybody's salary, I did not discover that error, and it was brought back to court, but the court decided to leave it as it was.
You know, last year, everything was done in a hurry because everything was put on, you know, it was started late and there were many, many errors made. And so I'm going to use an acronym, and y'all think about it for the rest of y'all's terms. It's called DIRTFOOT. Do it right the first time. You've got to slow down. You've got to make sure there's no errors. But last year everything was rushed, and I understand where errors were made. But this is just getting so ridiculous. There's so many errors made in this court because everybody's in a hurry to get it done. So you need to slow down and do it right the first time.
That's why I want us to address the salaries right off the bat. Get that out of the way, and then where it didn't continue with the departments after that.
Another question I had here, since, okay, Judge, elected officials, right? When you're elected, is it going to be elected to the minimum, and then you go as you're going, or do you come in, because as all the years I've been here, when you're elected, you come in with whatever the other elected official was making. But now that we have a salary survey, does the elected official that run for that position come to the minimum and then work its way up like we all did, or?
Well, I kind of always thought that the elected officials should have been left off the salary survey myself. Because you're elected by the people for 4 years, you're not guaranteed that in the next 4 years. You know, and it is what it is, and then the court as a body, I think, can decide, well, if you want to give somebody, if you want to give all the elected officials a raise, that's one thing, but I don't know. You have a good point, though, if we're going to follow it this way.
Well, and something else with that, James, too, our budget starts October 1, so there are statutory requirements that we have to post elected officials' salaries if there's any increase from the prior budget. So if there was an increase in October 1 and then a new official came in that position on January 1st, whatever is in the budget that was publicized as that salary is what that position gets. So it would not be, it probably should be a standard, not a subject to step.
Yeah, whatever they're getting at that time is
Correct.
what the new one's going to come in.
Correct. They would not revert back to, let's just say, let's say in your position, you were set at 40,000 based on your years. And the beginning rate for a county commissioner was 32,000. Because of how the law reads, we have to publish that. So in January 1st, that new commissioner would not start at 32,000. They would start at whatever was published, yes.
The ones that had problems with the, I mean, neglected, I guess. One, it was, all the JPs are just Daisy.
They're all at midpoint now.
All JPs are at midpoint. The
JP.
problem is the chief deputy clerk.
Yeah,
Yes,
and then,
that's what happened.
The, district clerk, county clerk,
County
yeah,
clerk, the county clerk and county attorney.
and who?
I think the county attorney.
Judge, you have?
My chief clerk got dipped out because she was raised up to the same price that the beginner clerk started. So I've got 2 part-time clerks, one had been there a year, one had been there 12 years, and they're making the same.
This is where I said that will have to be answers.
So the longevity needs to be dealt with first, and then deal with everybody else.
I think last year we just made everybody midpoint and did everything, but we gotta set something in stone. I mean, this is, at least we have something to work with the salary survey, but we gotta give it a lot of consideration and set it in. But again, like I said, the new commissioner's court comes in, they can change it. That's the thing. They sit here, they can change it, they can say, you know what, let's kick that one out and let's do our own. That's the problem.
Well, I know this is twice in the last 3 years that a salary survey has been done, and the first one got thrown to the wolves. This one was modified based on the recommendations, against the recommendations of the salary survey companies, so salaries and benefits are a big part of every department's budget, so this, in my opinion, like was said a while ago, this is a decision that needs to be made very early in the process, not waiting until August 15th and then having to juggle numbers.
I gave my opinion on how I think it should be, but I mean, it's just mine. I mean, there's 4 other people. I mean, there's a lot of other people in public, everything. But
Well, I agree, we need to decide if we're gonna, what's gonna be the, because right now, when somebody goes hire somebody, they just bring them in what they want, quite frankly. I mean, it's just to try to fill in a body.
Most of them bring them in at whatever's
Yeah,
in the budget.
Yeah, what in the budget, but I mean, but they don't bring them in at they don't have a minimum point to bring them in at because they don't know the minimum anymore. It's, what is this the new minimum we're gonna have, is what you're saying right there?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or we could also take into consideration and put it somewhere where we got a minimum, a mid, and a max. But if the person that somebody's hiring, office is hiring, has 2, 4, 6, 8 years of experience, you can jump from the minimum to the midpoint 2 or 3 sections. Or if they have 18 years, we can go by years, and they can end up somewhere between the midpoint and the maximum. But because of the years of experience, maybe in another county with that same involvement of the job or something like that, because it'd be hard to start someone that has 18 years of experience at minimum. You want that experience too, so you want to get someone that's experienced. They walk in and they know the job.
Well, I think you could also bring somebody in at minimum, and if they're claiming to have experience or whatever, say, you know, we're gonna do an evaluation in 6 months, and maybe we can give you a bump then.
Well,
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Again, I agree with the chief deputies because they should be able to do the job of that elected official if something would ever happen and that official's not there. I mean, Carol may have a chief deputy or whoever, even Denise. And if for some reason they were not to come back tomorrow or, you know, for 3 or 4 days, somebody's got to run that office, and that chief deputy should be the one to be able to do that.
That's correct, but I think the issue was that the way the decision was made, I don't know that though the county clerk, district clerk, or whoever it was that their employees are making more than
Yeah.
them, had that input. And to be able to say, yes, my person is at maximum, because if I get run over by a bus tomorrow,
Yeah.
they can step in and
Well,
do the job.
that was,
That's fine.
we tried to relay that to the salary survey
Yes.
company.
That's what I'm
And you
trying to
kind of
say.
let them know that as the chief deputy, they do. And it's happened before in this county where there was an elected official out for several weeks with a family tragedy, and her chief deputy was able to step in and take care of that. That's why they are higher
Yeah.
paid. They're the chief deputy for a
That's
reason.
what I'm trying to say, is that
right.
that person needs to be
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
compensated for that.
Right.
And not only the chief deputy, I will take that a step further. Please, judge, commissioners, look at our deputies. That they take an oath also, they're under us. They can come in and also work under, do what we do. Please consider what our deputies make to a secretary who, if is not here, that office can shut down that's not the same for the county clerk, the district clerk's office.
And right now, all of the
And
secretaries-
please look at that. Look at what some of these secretaries make compared to our deputies who take an oath, who can fill in for us and do every single responsibility that we have to, in any duty that we have to do. Please consider that our deputies also are in the courtrooms, do index, record, do also work with very, different entities. They're not just and no, I'm not trying to belittle any other department, but you have a secretary who's making $30,900 a year compared to our deputies who make Carol, I'm at a loss. 28.
They're making over $1.50 an hour more.
Please look at that also.
And our deputies are handling money.
There are about 3.
They have been deputized to take over and do all of the duties that we perform as well.
Yes. They're in the courtrooms. They are receiving monies. They do anytime they're oath to take what we do. They do what we do.
Well, is there, I guess obvious in that, is there any kind of a list or anything that says if you're a secretary, this is the salary? If you're a deputy, this is the salary? Is there any kind of organization along those lines? It's just whoever throws out their budget for that department, that's how they're given the
I think that's why we went
raises?
for the salary survey. And I think the salary survey company most probably has worked with a lot of corporations and done these surveys, but never with the county entities. And county entities are not the same as private corporations or privately owned. They're not the same at all. Your responsibilities are different. In a private corporation, you're going to have secretaries, you're going to have admin assistants, you're going to have executive assistants, and you can't compare those. The duties are totally different between the deputy clerks and the admin assistants. It's much, I guess you can compare it to deputy sheriffs and jailers. They're going to have different responsibilities. And the deputy sheriffs are going to act in a manner that's comparable to the sheriff, because in his absence, they're an extension of him. And the jailers may not be. In our absence, the deputy clerks are an extension of us.
Right.
The admin assistants are not to their supervisor.
And I think too, when they did the salary survey, every department provided job descriptions, and some may have been great writers and embellished their positions tremendously, so therefore they may have been assigned a greater rate of pay.
Okay, one more question. I hope we don't have to have a salary survey anytime soon, because wasn't that like $60,000 or something like that?
For the last 2
Number
years.
2, if we're going to have a salary survey, can we get somebody that surveys counties, not corporations?
Well, we did that the first time, and the first time it was all off. But we had sat down before the survey company came in last year. We had several department heads sat down, and we were trying to come up with something on our own. And we were trying to fix the longevity issue. And one of the things we talked about was, especially for the deputies, was having a base salary. And let's just say $10 an hour, because it's easy to add with $10 an hour. And then for every month they had been here, just to get a base rate, for every month they had been here, whether it was a year or 2 years, add 2 cents or 3 cents to that base salary and let that be their starting salary. So the person that was here a year versus a person that was here 3 years, their salary would be a little bit different to start with, because you want to take into consideration they've been here longer than the other clerks. But then we knew we were getting a salary survey company, so we never finished it. But that's where we were headed last year. And then we would have had, a better guideline. And then a new deputy coming in would have made that base rate and not had those 2 or 3 cents extra per month because they hadn't been here yet. That would have taken care of the problem of the deputies that are here now making more than the ones coming in. And it wasn't a lot. I don't even know, we didn't get started. I think we had 2 meetings. We didn't finish it.
And as far as just the private sector, they did do a few counties and a few private entities when they made this survey, when they assigned calls.
Well, I think
There's
just
some
barely
counties,
started.
there's some counties that are lower than we are, and there's
Oh,
some
yeah.
counties that are above we are. And there's some counties that have, where we have a full-time position, they have them as a part-time position.
Well, and then
And
you
no
have,
benefits.
and then you also have other counties that have, for instance, other county auditor departments may have 6, 7, 8 assistants. And they've all got good pay rates, but then their county auditor is also higher compensated than my position is currently. And because they have 5, 6, 7, 8 assistants, their county auditor doesn't do as much as I do with
Right.
only 2 assistants.
Brenda, you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it to your attention that my deputies make less than any of the deputies in the county. And just through the month of May, county M&O, $20 million has come through my office that my girls have handled. They make less than any deputy in the county.
They didn't sit down with us as a group, sit down with us individually. Had they sat down with us as a group, we could have been able to tell them, wait a minute, when you're looking at deputies as a whole, look at the deputies as a whole.
Yes.
And look at admin assistants, you know. It was done pretty quickly too, so.
And also not only what they do, but how broad their requirements are. You may have a clerk, let's just say in the tax office, if it was divided between property and vehicle registration, you may have one that only every day comes in and does license for vehicles. You know, they don't have the balance the checkbook, make the daily deposits, do the reports to the state. Again, how you embellish your job description has a lot to do with how the cost was assigned. And there's some offices where the duties change daily.
Well, maybe one of these times, the county, when there is time, do what she said, get everybody together. You know, somewhere along the line, this has got to come under control, so everything is done fairly. Longevity, what they do, you know, it would probably be a long ongoing type thing, but in the long run, it's going to be worth it, because then you've got a system, how to pay
It
people.
does take a lot of time, but eventually, somebody's gonna have to take that time and have to do it that way.
Which I'm hoping the HR person will help us with as well, because they should have some experience in it.
I've been here 53 years, and I've heard this same argument
Yes.
53 times at least, and maybe more. It doesn't change, and it doesn't solve the problem. I'm not sure what the solution is. I haven't said much today because I don't know much to say. There's got to be a better solution than the way we're doing it here. In my personal business, I never had this kind of problem. I had sense enough to set the salaries the way they ought to be set, based on the work people did, and we never had anybody quit, I don't think. We didn't have a lot of employees. Mary Whitehead and I practiced law together for 30-something years, and I think the most we ever had was 6. And it just wasn't a problem, and in the private industry, it's not a problem. I'm not sure why it's such a problem.
Because it's public knowledge.
And, well,
Because Joe knows what Bob makes, and Susie knows what Betty makes, and everybody, well, I do more than you.
Everybody in a small office knows something. I mean, they may not be talking about it regularly, but they all know what each other make.
Well, and then you've got your taxpayers that are pressuring the commissioner's court saying,
Well,
Good
they
grief,
all
they
need to
make
be
more.
told to run for office, and you can change the situation.
I agree with James that we need to set up a new minimum and then follow the plan after that and correct the ones that we need to correct. And then from that on, you know, at least for the, you know, have that new minimum, and if it's gonna be a 3% or maybe not be a 3% next year, it might be only a 1.5% or something, but get the entry level where it's at, so there is a division for the people that've been there
well,
longer.
and then you also, as y'all mentioned, need to address the elected officials, because every commissioner should make the same rate of pay. but you need to have that established also, because different positions only serve precinct levels, some serve countywide levels, some's office requirements are more than other office requirements, so again, it's a major component of the budget, and a lot of things flow through other costs, so that's kind of why it was one of the top things on this opening workshop.
Well, maybe don't give it just a big old blanket raise this time. Start correcting some of the mistakes that were made last year by not giving those people raises. But start evening it out starting this year.
We need to get it corrected this year we got it corrected. I mean,
I'm not sure we can correct the whole thing in 1 year, Sylvia.
but I mean, but at least we get the minimum start, I mean, the baseline set.
Well, and that's something too that will have to be stressed and everyone will have to understand. You have an employee that's been here for 15 years and they're at the midpoint now, and they decide to retire, and so you replace that employee, they don't get replaced at that salary of that outgoing person. They come in at a minimum starting pay rate.
But if that person retires and then you move that person into that position, that person that goes into the position that one retired from should be compensated for that.
Not necessarily to the full amount though.
No, but I mean, they shouldn't be doing it at the same rate unless it's if it's a higher responsibility position, I would
But if
think.
that's in the department head's budget,
Yeah.
should it be at their discretion at that point?
Well, if we have the pay plan, no.
The only thing, if we have a pay plan, it stays as a pay plan that we set, but if that other person that comes in has 10 years experience, maybe something like Mary said, give them a 90-day probation period, and if they prove they do, well, they're gonna have the paperwork to show that you have 10 years experience, but just because you have 10-year experience don't mean that you're worth a head of beans, you still might not be a good employee.
Well,
right?
in the private sector as opposed to governmental, there's a lot of things different.
Again, that's where that HR person needs to be set up to help us get through all these
Yeah.
things. But then, you know, again, you look at and that's what I own, you know, you got every department, you always say, don't tell me how to do my job, it's my department, well, that's fine. But every department to me, you should know exactly what your people are worth. And you know, maybe you should be the one to set the pay scale for your department and come tell us why. I mean, if you think your guy's worth $10 an hour, you think your people are worth $20 an hour, well, why are they worth it? And it's not because they handle large amounts of money, but why are they worth it? People in the bank handle a large amount of money, they don't get paid that much.
Right.
We create more chaos by doing that than we would just.
Yeah,
by
but
setting it.
I mean, you know, is what I'm saying is we don't want to tell, you don't want to tell each department how to run their department, but yet the departments need to tell us how they want to run their department.
Well, and that's what we talked about too last year, was that you're setting a salary for the position, not the person, but if you have a range, so that if someone leaves today and I hire someone new that has 5 years experience, I don't think the minimum is a fair amount to pay them. I think they would deserve a little bit more because they've had 5 years of experience. So if you have a range that you're giving for that position, not the person, but you're paying the position.
Yeah, I agree. But the trouble is, people that find people who go to work for that position are not looking at that position. They're looking to help somebody to get that.
Some are, but most of us are not.
I know that.
Well, and in that same instance too, you may have a new employee, and if the only way that new employee will ever start at the minimum range then is if they are fresh out of high school and this is their first job ever because they have no experience. So then really our minimum range will 90% of the time never be used. Because somebody's always going to have a year of experience or 2 years.
Well, that's what we could
You have to
average.
have an entry level range.
Maybe we could average it out like that, within those 10 years of the 30%, whatever, we can average it out 2, 4, 6, 8 years of experience. And they can come in a little bit higher, so it'll look good for them to come in, but a new starter comes in at the minimum, fresh, no experience.
I always envision the salary survey as, you have the entry levels for just conversation at $1, and the mid-range started at $5. I always envisioned that between the 1 and the 5, you had an area to bring your person in to fit. Yeah, you may start them in at $1, and after they've been there maybe 90 days, well, I'm gonna move you to $1.50 or $1.75, providing you meet all my requirements, you know? And that was my envision of the salary survey, to have a person, department head, give them that leeway between the minimum and, you know, or whatever, you know, but you had a range in there you could work with to attract somebody, not just totally blow it out of the water.
Well, and I don't know how the court can do that, since technically, once y'all give a budget to a department, it's at their discretion on how they spend it, to an extent.
Well,
Yeah, we can say salaries are frozen, the hiring's frozen, whatever, but
I guess
you can't mandate that a department head do it like that, and if you put 35,000 in that salary budget, that they don't put that.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you have to set a step salary for a step rate and say, I want to hire somebody and bring them in at a step, not a step one, but at say at a step 2 or step 3, and you know that rate already. It's all been cleared. That's just my thoughts.
So I want all this decided by next Friday's meeting.
There you go.
We'll have 2 different ones and 3
Exactly.
that aren't here, probably.
And then we'll have a repetition. Uh-huh. You did record this. We can give it to the other 2 commissioners, right? All right.
And Joe is here.
Okay.
You know, the only other thing that I'm just gonna throw out there is, like, comp time and everything. I know there's a lot of offices that probably can't do it any other way, but I did it for 8 years. I had 4 or 5 employees. I know it's different on the roads than it is anywhere else, but I don't think I ever had any comp time in my 8 years that I ran out there with Junior, George, Richard, Raymond, Jess. I had all of them together, and we worked all of our comp time, because they did. I mean, we're out there, it's the county, you have to go out there Saturdays, Sundays. We couldn't just go home if we were in the middle of the road. We finished it till 6 or 7, but I worked it out between me and them 100%. I never, ever had anything on papers that was comp time. I don't think I did that I can remember. I never had to pay them
You
out.
also didn't have automated timekeeping systems either.
Excuse me?
You also didn't utilize automated timekeeping systems. The
Back
time
then.
clock.
You manage your
I was
people.
talking about the Stone Age, I'm sorry. That was,
Right.
that was a long time ago, my apologies.
But you manage your people.
But I'm at, either way, in my business, like the judge was saying, I have about 8 people in my business right now, in my construction business. I've had up to 72. I never had a problem with it. Not the way we have it in the county.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think this has been discussed. On the comp time, you know, because they work comp time at this hourly rate or this wage, and then later then they get more money. What effect would it have on the county if you paid out the comp time like every 3 months? If you just cleared the books of all the comp time, paid it off, that way they would be getting paid at the comp time wage that they were earning it at. You know, that way none of this buildup would happen. And I understand about sheriffs and stuff like that they've got to finish their job, or anybody. But if you pay it out, at least you're not going to get hung out to dry down the road on a $10,000 payout.
But if you manage your time monthly or within the 3 months, we should have minimum or no comp time.
Right, and there's some offices can do that, sheriff's departments can't necessarily.
Well, they can too now. If we pay it all off, and they're doing it now. He's managing their time now.
I guess I just
Yeah,
wasn't
but
listening.
they're doing a lot better job. That they don't have the buildup like they were having.
Well, if they can take the time off, then that settles it all, then you don't have to pay out anything. But if they can't, then pay it out every 3 months. That way you're paying it at a little bit of money instead of a big amount of money.
It's a budgeting challenge when you have to try and budget in how much comp might be there that needs to be paid out, et cetera. If you can get them to take the time off, that's the ideal situation.
I don't totally know how things work, but maybe you could have a comp time account to pay it out of. But hopefully everybody can get it under control and won't have that problem.
Thank you, Mayor. Jordan, what do you want for next, something
I want to know about the salaries.
from the salaries? So I stated what I wanted. What I'm gonna do is I'll work on what I think the years should be, like 2, 4, 6. I'll split them up, and I'll have something set like that. But I'm gonna have mine starting from the minimum up to the max. But I'll have the first 3 from minimum to mid at 5.55, and then the rest 3.33. But I'm gonna split those into years of experience. But I'm talking about years of experience. Like for an example, you have years of experience doing one job, but you're coming to another job. It has to be the same job, because I can go in and say I got 15 years. I got 15 years experience in this or that, but it's not for that job.
Right.
You know.
You gonna address elected officials they want?
The elected officials.
You
Excuse me.
got some judges that have 30 years, right?
Over 30 years. Well, not as, I've been a JP since 1998, but with the county,
But we're looking at you.
almost 35 years.
Right?
Yeah, we're looking at the position because I've been here 15, 16 years already, and we gave up a lot of raises. The commissioner's court probably should be making a lot more than we make now, but we bit the bullet a lot of times to save money and stuff. So on commissioner's court, it is. I mean, on ours, not on everyone. I'm talking about us. It is what it is. We bit that bullet a lot of times. I was here many years when we didn't take a raise up here.
Well, and I think, like talking earlier about the state statutes of having advertising elected officials pay raises from, or pay components from all sources, you can't separate out steps, because you may have a commissioner that has been here 15 years and then next January somebody else new comes in another position. There's no way you can predict that, because the general election hasn't been till November and our budget has to be done by September.
We've gotten to the point where we're not being very productive, I don't think,
It just
anymore. Uh, I would suggest that we probably adjourn this meeting and do some thinking and talking about the various things that have come before us today and that we've discussed, and have another work session fairly quick, within a week or a couple of weeks at the most, and see if we can put these in a little better situation of where they fit better. And I'm not sure whether we can or not, but we can try. That's what we're here for. And I would suggest that we adjourn at this point, and talking to each other and some of our constituents, and see if we can figure out something that seems workable, and come back in another work session and discuss it and see where we are and go from there then.
Next Friday, the 19th, is what was discussed in court on Tuesday as our next budget workshop.
The 19th
Yes.
on Friday. Well, that would be fine. I mean, with me, it would be, and I'm hopeful that,
Should be back then.
okay. And we need to let the other two members of the court know for sure. I will let them know for one. And I'd say, if you see them, remind them that we're going to meet again next Friday. Not, well, a week from today. All right?
Sir, Judge.
Move we adjourn. All in favor signify by leaving, I think, to be proper. Don't linger, because you might get caught and have to explain something we said. All right, thank you.